I have an apology to make on the show. Last year, Coach, you said, you know what? Travis Kelce sure seems to be doing a lot in his high-profile relationship. And I said, Coach, how dare you? That's his personal life. And I lumped you in to a lot of, dare I say, Taylor haters. I said, this guy just hates Taylor. And I stood on that ground. I said, Travis can do what he wants. If anything, maybe it makes him a more robust person, accessing part of his emotional DNA that was previously untouched. And now he goes on Bussin' with the Boys and says, basically, Coach Mangini was right the entire time that there was a lack of focus while he prepared for the year.
Do you think, just real quick, do you think he said a lack of focus? Or that he, did he say, did he literally, if he literally said that, I apologize for asking. I thought he was talking about that he was maybe worn down by it. Isn't it?
This year, I kind of put all of that to the side.
Yeah, I don't think it was, just in fairness to...
The word focus is not there.
Right, I don't
but
think
it felt
he was
like
saying
it was
that,
swimming on the periphery.
No, I guess just, and then I'll let you take your apology from him. I just, in defense, if I may, of Travis, I don't think he was saying he wasn't focused. I think he might have been saying he was spreading himself too thin. Not that he had, was not focused on trying to three-peat. And
well, if you're driving in a car and, you're doing a Sudoku and also listening to a podcast and fiddling with the radio, is it fair for me in the passenger seat, because I'm not driving, be like, you're not focused.
Correct.
Right now.
That would be. I think this example would be, while I'm driving the car, I'm focused just on the road, but I am a drowsy, weary driver because I stayed up all night playing poker. I think that when he was playing football and with the team, he was locked in, but he was spread a little thin, is what he was saying.
Moral of the story, you were right.
Well, I'm not sure if he was right, but I'll let him go. Go ahead.
Nick, you talk about hater.
No.
First of all, I love Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I know.
And I love the relationship, and I was happy that he was in it. And I do think that the analogy you made where he's a drowsy driver, I think that's true. You're coming off back-to-back Super Bowl runs. Those are shortened seasons. But he wasn't focusing on the offseason and getting his mind right. He was focusing, and he talks about at the beginning of the interview, about life after football. He said the last 3 years, I was trying to make sure things were ready for me after football. And so you saw that with the TV show, you saw that with the commercials, you saw that with the podcast, and all those things are great too. And you want to take advantage of it.
The game show.
But I forgot about the game show. But it's hard, especially in a shortened season, to get the rest that you need and to be able to recalibrate when you're doing all of those other things. So I think he was drowsy, and that's fair. And then I do think he was playing Sudoku.
Is what he said, yeah.
And maybe texting and watching a TV show, reading a book. There was a lot going on. And this offseason, it's radically different. Everything now is about getting ready for the next season.
Yeah, I think this is him being a great leader and being too hard on himself.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really.
Too hard on himself?
I think that, that everyone just, for some reason, when we're talking about the 2024 Kansas City Chiefs, glosses over the fact that they were literally the most injured offensive skill position team of the whole league. That by week 4, they had to take a wide receiver that the Patriots couldn't use anymore and a running back who'd been out of football and have them be number one wide receiver and running back because their running back broke his leg, their backup running back got hurt, their big wide receiver acquisition in the offseason got his rib cracked, and then the surgery kind of went awry. Not the surgery went awry, the recovery went awry. So he missed almost the whole year. And their number 1 wide receiver coming back got his knee blown out, and their number 4 wide receiver got hurt. So all of those things happened. And by the way, the backup tight end that they drafted to take some of the workload off Travis, he blew out his knee as well. And so there was, I think all of these things happened. One, I think the entire team was worn out by a lot of football, the deep seasons, and the pressure of not only, are we going for a three-peat? We can do it. You know what I mean? We're good. Like, it's a realistic. For the Broncos, it wasn't realistic. John Elway retired. It wasn't. You know what I mean? Like, they knew they couldn't do it. You guys could do it, but it seemed like it wore on your team in 05. That was
really hard.
Right. And so there was that. He obviously is not as agile and fast as he once was, and I do not think there's anything he can do in the offseason to get back to that level. Now, maybe he can be faster than he was last season. Go ahead.
But Nick, can you think of any NFL player comp to what he did last offseason? Any other NFL player that was similar? Now, Peyton Manning did a lot of commercials, but when you look at the amount of things that Travis was doing in the offseason, is there anybody else you can compare
Aaron
it to?
tried to host Jeopardy, and I think won an MVP.
Okay, so we got
hosting Jeopardy is not challenging.
You've got TV show to TV show.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we also have the other TV show.
What's the other TV show?
Grotesquerie? Remember?
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
that was
Yeah. That was an excellent show.
I actually think the biggest thing was probably the travel. Yeah. I think the biggest thing that had an actual impact is I just think
you're dating the biggest superstar in the world.
And I think the travel, and I also think the psychological wear of becoming that level of celebrity can drain on people. I think you.
But you haven't even taken into account the podcast that exploded. So you had the podcast.
I don't think that's
podcast commitment. Chill.
And it's him and his brother for 90 minutes. So
we're talking about a lot of things.
It's something. I think him putting on a tuxedo and learning choreographed dance moves on one of the biggest tours in the world is a bigger deal than doing the podcast, talking to Jason.
No, so I'm not. The point that I'm trying to make, I am not acting as if that those were not real things. I think him saying, I failed last year, I let my team down, is him trying to be a great leader. And I think what you're going to hear a lot from him and Patrick, that, you know why we didn't win that Super Bowl? We weren't good enough.
That's good.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the way those two guys are wired and the way they've got to do it. I just think that I don't know how much Travis's numbers are different last season, if he had never met Taylor Swift, and if his brother's like, I don't want to do a podcast with you. I think the vast majority of that was oldest tight end in the league. The defenses only by week 4 had to worry about him. I think that had a much greater impact than the other stuff. That's the point I'm making.
Yeah, and he still had great numbers.
It just wasn't explosive.
Yeah,
and didn't have the touchdown.
His typical,
yes.
But there's still really impressive tight end numbers.
I wonder how much of this he's talking about stuff that didn't show up on the box score, where it will be, it will quietly, it won't even trend. You just go find of like him missing blocks, him getting off the line, super slow.
I feel like he had one really, really ugly play in the Super Bowl where he thought the play was over and Mahomes is still scrambling around and he's just kind of meandering and then Mahomes gets clocked, fumbles. The Chiefs actually end up recovering it. He doesn't have a lot of, as someone that watches the Chiefs pretty closely, he doesn't have a lot of those, but I do think that he was, maybe the busiest man in the NFL last year, to your point. And I think that when you're the busiest guy and one of the oldest, and you've played more games than any players, any other team in the league over the last 3 years, all of that can turn into
I'd also be curious just to see what his numbers were where he had to stay in for protection before releasing last year versus the year before with the problems they had on the offensive line.
Josh, looks like you're staying late with Mangini.
Yep.
All going over.
We got work to do, Josh.
Over 22. Jeremy Fowler writing about the top 10 running backs in the NFL, surveyed league executives, coaches, and scouts to come up with the ranking. Here's the top 10. Saquon back at number 1. Derrick Henry still at number 2. Gibbs, Bijan, McCaffrey, Jacobs, Taylor. I'd like to see a bounce back here from Jonathan Taylor. Cooks, Mixon, and Kamara. But no Ashton Jeanty. Where do you think Jeanty will stack up?
So I don't know. I know coaches almost zealot-like belief in being late to the train with young quarterbacks. I don't think he feels the same about young running backs. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like running back is a position where very often you look back, it's like, hey, what were the best 2 years of that running back's career? And it's like his first two. You know what I mean? Those guys. So I think Jeanty is going to be a top 3 running back in football next year. I think that if I had to bet, my list wouldn't be quite like that. But I think the 3 best running backs in football next year will be Saquon, Bijan Robinson, and Ashton Jeanty. And I think that Derrick Henry can still be excellent, but be right on the outside of that because of at some point, I know it's been a bad bet at this point, but it obviously will happen eventually. And I'm not saying, he almost had 2,000 yards last year, and it got, maybe. But I think he could have 1,400 yards, still have an excellent season, and be outside of that top 3. So I think Jeanty is going to instantly compete for all-pro status at running back.
Yeah, my concern with Jeanty, and we've talked about this, is the receptions last year. That boggles my mind.
But the year before, he had a bunch, Coach.
He had 43 the year before. He had 23 his final season. And then the volume of carries that he's had over the last 2 years, he's had close to 500 carries in his last 2 years of college.
Come on, it's against Boise State competition. He's just running guys over.
I know. It's wear and tear. And I'm hopeful that he's going to be explosive, but he's got to be a bigger part of the passing game if they're going to be able to keep him in, down out, and he's going to be an every down back.
Is it too simplistic to think that Pete Carroll's just going to use him like Marshawn? Is that just too obvious?
I don't think it's too simplistic. I think Pete's going to ideally make him into a 3-down back, and that he's going to come out and show the production that he had. When he had the 43 receptions and 500-plus yards in college. But if he doesn't, then that's your only alternative.
Real quick, do you agree with me, though, that of every – I think every position, except for maybe pass rusher, but maybe that the one that is easiest to have an instant impact as a rookie is running back? That the transition is the simplest and that is the spot where a rookie – can really impact winning more than almost any other spot on the field?
Yeah, I do think that's fair, especially if you're going to commit to when he's in the game, you're handing him the ball, and the world may know it, but that's what you're going to do. Where you get into problems is if that guy has an issue with protection or can't mentally pick up what you're trying to get done from a scheme perspective. But, yeah, it should be easiest to impact the offense that way.